Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have another updated top 5 video for y'all. You love these videos and I honestly love them too. I like watching other people's top 5 favorites. This has been something that I have done for, goodness, probably 2 to 3 years now. And I believe this is the 3rd installment of this particular category. And I'm gonna be talking about my top 5 favorite powders. Now, when I say powders, I mean setting my makeup powders. I don't mean powder foundations. I'm gonna do a whole separate video on that because I've gotten really into powder foundations lately and I have quite a few favorites. So I'm not including any of those in this video. I'm talking about face setting, under eye setting, touch up, and buffing powders in this video. So while it does say top 5 in the title, I'm gonna be talking about a little bit more. I have narrowed my face setting powders down to only 5. I know, aren't y'all proud of me? And then I've got 3 of the other kind of specific powders to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump into my favorites. In no particular order, I will save the one that I'm wearing today for the very last. Honestly, I feel like a few of these are going to be repeats. And I feel like I always have to preface by saying that if I have talked about loving a powder in the past, I still love it. If for some reason I fall out of love with something, I'm going to tell y'all. It is not easy to narrow my collection down to my top 5 because I have quite a few in each category. I have a lot of setting powders, like a lot. So if I have said that I have loved something or if I have recommended something in the past, I still love and recommend them. These are just the ones that when I looked at my entire collection, popped out at me as my favorites. The first is, again, not new to the top 5, and it is the Well People Bio Brightener powder. I feel like this one is all around, this and the next one I'm gonna talk about is all around a powder that will work with absolutely any foundation that you choose to put it over. It will work with pretty much every skin type. It just works. Now this is a translucent powder, it is loose. I'm actually almost done with this. You can see, maybe. I just have very little amount. I do have one in my backup drawer that I was lucky enough to get in a subscription box. When I opened it, I'm like, thank you, because I would have had to repurchase this. But here's the thing, it's not that expensive. I want to say it's like $18. If I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen. But for the amount of product you get, there is 0.21 ounces or 6 grams. I feel like $18 is not bad. It's gonna last you a long time. It's translucent. It doesn't ever change the color of my foundations. It also doesn't change the finish. So if I have a luminous foundation on, it's not gonna mattify it. If I have a matte foundation on, it's not gonna add luminosity. It keeps the finish of the foundation true to the finish of the foundation, which also I feel like the next one does. A good segue. This is the Glow Skin Beauty Perfecting Powder. Again, one that I've had, I think, in every single one of my favorites videos. This, I honestly need to get another one because even though I haven't hit pan, it does get a little bit of a hard pan sometimes, I will say, but it's totally worth it to me because again, this is very similar to this in the fact that it doesn't change the finish of your foundation. I feel like it works on all skin types. I've had a lot of people comment that say they have oily skin and absolutely adore this powder. If you have dry skin, it's not gonna mattify you too much, but I wanna see you, I wanna show you how I'm really digging into this powder. I get some on my finger, okay? Not as much as I should for as much as I dug into the product. But then when I put it on my skin, it vanishes. I mean, it truly is what it says it is. It's perfecting, and I think these are very similar. It's just dependent on whether you want a pressed version or a loose version, and people do have preferences. So gives you 2 of the same type of powder, in my opinion, in 2 different versions. The next one, okay, here's the thing. This is the old version of this powder. They repackaged it, I know. I don't know if they reformulated it. I've asked in the past and I haven't had anybody comment, but if you have tried this powder in the past and you've tried the new one, please let me know how they compare. If they have reformulated it, I'm gonna be very, very sad because I love this powder so much that I have worn off half of the writing on the front. This is the Too Faced Primed and Poreless powder. Again, the older version, but you can tell how much I love it. I honestly need to repurchase, but I'm scared that the new one isn't the same. This is obviously a pressed powder. It looks super white, both in the pan and when you swatch, but it's very similar to the Glow Skin to where it kind of disappears. Now, I can't say that if you have extremely deep skin that this is gonna work on you. I haven't tried it on any deep skin clients, so I just can't say. But for me, this is more of a mattifying powder. And it really does help diffuse pores and make everything just look pretty much flawless. But it is not necessarily gonna keep the integrity of the foundation all the time. Because if I do wear like a more luminous foundation and I put this over the top of it, it will mattify it a little bit. It's not gonna look as luminous as it did if I were to use one of the previously mentioned powders. But what this does is it ensures that your makeup absolutely does not move while giving you a very smooth finish. So that is why I love this so much. If I know I'm gonna have a very long day, I need to ensure that just my makeup stays put. I always reach for this. That's why it's got so much pan showing. It's just marvelous. Now, when I want something with a little bit of color, also to perfect my skin, I want it to set, but I don't want it to look like powder at all, and almost give a little bit of hydration, which is kind of crazy to say in a powder. I'm gonna reach for the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder. This is in the color medium. Again, this is a colored powder. However, I don't feel like it gives near the amount of coverage as like a powder foundation or anything like that. Again, hit pan, you can tell how much I love it. This is my second or third compact that I have gone through. This is formulated with some oils in it, so that's how the kind of the hydration comes through. It's very finely milled, and it is just going to perfect your skin without making it look like you just put a tin of powder on. It's really hard to explain, but I will show you another way that I use this powder. I talked about this in my Sephora recommendations video not long ago. If I do my makeup and I feel like I'm a little bit too shiny in some places, which let me preface by saying I do not feel like that today. I kind of don't want to do this step because I love the way that my skin looks right now using the next powder that I'm going to talk about. So keep in mind how it looks. Rewind if you need to, but I do like to take, this is the Jane Iredale Flocked Sponge, and I will put it a little bit in the powder and take it just around the areas that maybe I feel like are a little shinier than I want. And it takes the shine down without making you look flat matte. It's pretty spectacular in that respect as well. So lots of reasons I love this powder, lots of ways I love to use it. Now let's talk about my last favorite setting powder. This is the newest one to my collection. I kind of feel like it's cheating because I've only had it for a couple of weeks, but it's what I have on my skin right now, and it is the Lancome Absolute Powder in Absolute Ecru Light. So I did a whole video with Lancome. I showed you a few different colors because I now have 5 of these Absolute powders. At first I only had Pesh and Golden. They are very shiny. In fact, Pesh can be like a loose highlighter for me. Golden is a little too dark and shiny to set my whole face. I was kind of under the impression that all of the Absolute powders were like that. Yeah, no, this one is not. It is pretty spectacular. If you want to see it in action, you can go check out that video. But again, it's what I have on my face today. I actually have 2 different foundations on. I'm working on a review video that will hopefully be up next week, comparing a new foundation with some of the older versions from the same line. And this is the powder that I'm going to be using every day to keep the comparisons consistent, because it is just so beautiful. It is not overly luminous, but it's not overly matte as well. It just makes you look like you have perfected, glorious skin. So definitely a new favorite for sure. Now my favorite under eye setting powder has to go to the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Under Eye Setting Powder. This is in the shade Light. I know it looks scary and bright, but it is what I set my under eyes with almost every single day, and it does not come across this color under the eyes. I mean, very scary even when you swatch it, but while it brightens the under eye a little bit, it doesn't make it white or too bright, because I do not like a super bright under eye. I want something that is gonna be pretty much skin tone for me, and this just sets it perfectly. It helps ensure that it doesn't crease, but it doesn't look cakey or powdery under the eye, which is the last thing myself and probably most of you want under the eye, is for anything to look cakey or powdery or dry or old or aged or anything. We don't want that. And this really ensures that none of my concealers are going to look like that throughout the day. My favorite buffing powder. Now, when I talk about buffing, I mean when I'm completely done with everything on my face and I want to take a big dual fiber brush and just go all over to make sure there's no harsh lines, make sure everything's kind of smoothed out, more flawless looking. Obviously goes to Hourglass. Y'all know this. Truly, I don't even know how many I've gone through of this. And I love that I've hit pan on so many of these because you can tell how much I love them. This is, I think, my third one of this particular color, and this is Radiant Light. When I first started using these, I used Dim Light. It worked, it was glorious, I liked it, but then I switched to Radiant Light when I was done with that first compact, and I like this even more because it gives a little bit more warmth to the skin. It doesn't add a ton of color, but it just kind of warms you up, which I like on my skin tone. If you are very, very fair, this is a very pretty bronzer. And it just, I mean, if you've never seen these ambient lighting powders up close, they have a sheen to them, but it doesn't make you look greasy. There's just something spectacular about this. I know a lot of people use many different powders to buff. Some even use loose powders. I don't like loose powders to buff. I find like they're a little too messy for how I like to do the technique. This one's just hands down my ultimate favorite. And then finally, before I talk about my top 3 powder brushes, I'm going to talk about my favorite touch-up powder, which is the Lemare. I don't know because it is rubbed off on the back. This is just their pressed powder. So this is the color translucent. They also have shades of this, so light, medium, darker, deep. I like the translucent one. I have one in my kit as well. I carry this in my purse at all times for if I get a little bit shiny throughout the day. It has a puff in it. I use the puff that it comes with, and I press just a little bit into the areas that I'm a little too shiny. It completely absorbs all that shine, sets my makeup back to rights, and honestly, I haven't found a touch-up powder that I like more than this. Yes, it is very expensive. No, I really don't ever purchase this unless I can get it on sale. But it lasts forever as a touch-up powder, and I just haven't found one that I like better personally. So very quickly, let's talk about my top 3 favorite powder brushes. My first is the BK Beauty 104 brush. This is going to be the smallest one that I talk about. I like to use this with loose powders because I find it's easiest to control the amount of product. You typically pick up a lot more loose powder than you do pressed on your brush. So I just feel like it makes me able to control the amount of product that I put on my skin the best. I also use this with pressed. There's really no right or wrong. I just like the size. They also have a larger one, which I do like, but this one is my favorite within the collection. Another one is the Lemare powder brush. I actually used this one today with my Lancome powder. I've talked about this a lot in Sephora recommendations videos. Again, very expensive, but I haven't found a brush quite like it. I know many people do like dupe videos, and yes, I have brushes that people have claimed are the same, but there's just something special about the density, the size, the softness, the overall distinction of this brush is different enough for me to warrant saying that I love it, and I really think that it's worth it. It is a little bit more dense, as you can see, than the next one I'm going to talk about, which is the Rephr number 25. This is one of the newest brushes from Rephr, and it is glorious. You can see it, how soft it is and how it's just a little bit more loose than the Lemare, but it's bigger than the BK Beauty. So if you put the Lemare, it's even almost bigger than Lemare. This is just, for just a sweep of powder, it's glorious. Y'all know how much I love Rephr. It's one of my favorite brush brands ever. And I have been very impressed with this brush since I have received it. That is my video of top favorite powders, powder brushes, under eye powders, you know, all the good stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Be sure, as always, with my top 5 videos to leave down in the comment section your very favorite powder of all time. Please like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. I hope you're all staying happy, healthy, safe, and sane, and most of all, that you go out and have a very blessed day.